Welcome to Satsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Satsunami. I'm Satsunami and joining me for another special streamer spotlight is none other than the one and only BadGamesJules. Jules, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no problem. The pleasure's all mine. Their own messages your way being like, do you want to come on? Are you sure? Maybe?
It's my first podcast, so
Oh, wow.
I've never been on one.
God, now I feel nervous now. It's like, I hope you enjoy. I hope I don't turn you off podcasts or live. Yeah, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Got a bit of editing done, and then I'm like, all right, I did 20 minutes of it. Time to rest, and I'll come back to it later.
It's always good when you get like a good day of editing in, isn't it?
Yeah, I used to stream 7 days a week, and I was like, oh, I'll just edit whenever I feel like it. But I'm like, Saturday should probably be an edit day instead of just constantly streaming and then having zero energy the rest of the time to edit.
No, absolutely. I mean, what's like a better use for a weekend than editing?
I usually work like all day and then I come home and stream, and then on the weekends I don't have work, so I'm like, actually it'd be a pretty good idea to do non-streaming things and get a bunch of videos out for the week. And it's such a boost of serotonin to get something done and then you see it on YouTube and you get about 10 views, but it's still nice to see someone see it and appreciate your hard work.
I mean, I can't remember what video it was, but it was someone like talking about how like Twitch views and YouTube views translate to real life. You know, it's like 10 views might not be a lot on like YouTube, but if you imagine 10 people coming into your house to watch the video, you're kind of like, first of all, how did you all get in my house? Second of all, thank you for watching my video.
The funny thing is, when I do put out a YouTube video, my friends, we all have a group chat, and they're like, "All right, it's Joel's YouTube watch night." And they make me like share my screen, and we all watch it together. And it's like six
Aww.
of us, and we all watch it. And they're like, and it just it like helps me visualize like other people like sitting there and enjoying my content because I do it with my friends, and they'll like give me critiques. Like it's not negative, like, "Oh, this video sucks. Let's just move on to the next one." It's like, "Oh, this is a little bit too long," or "I really enjoyed this part." And it really helps me visualize instead of just in my head like, "Oh, this is bad," or "Oh, I need to improve this." But it gives me an actual feedback system and it helps me improve, and I really appreciate my friends for it.
That's a lot better than my tactics. I just kind of spam the link in and be like, it's done. Would you like to watch? It's like, you know those cold callers that you get like chapping your door saying, have you heard about our local red panda, Satsunami? It's like, please never contact me at this number again. It's like, okay, duly noted. But that is so wholesome though. They have like watch parties and things for it.
Yeah, I always tell them what I'm working on, and they're like, "You have to tell us immediately when it's done." So I like give them updates when I'm editing it, and they're like, "Work faster, we want to watch it." And it just motivates me to get it done.
Because we were kind of talking just before we came on to record this episode, but you're quite a dab hand at content creation, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been interested in it ever since I was a kid. I started my YouTube channel at 12, and it was a group channel at first. It was literally our initials because we had Albert, Brad, and then Julie. So it was just ABJs instead of ABCs, and we thought that was the most creative thing on the planet. We're like, oh my gosh, this is gonna stick. It's so catchy. And we just uploaded just the most random things at all times. Like, oh, here's 3 parts of Metal Gear Solid 4. Is it complete? No, but here's just 3 random parts recorded off the TV screen. And then when I got my first capture card, I thought it was the best thing ever. It was called the Dazzle, and it recorded only up to like 480p. And I was just like, this is the best thing ever. And I just started recording Let's Plays and all this other stuff, and I was like, this is amazing. No editing, just straight 10-minute Let's Plays were what I used to do. And then I just slowly kept evolving content into when Young Justice became popular. I was like, oh, I'll do reviews of the episodes. And it was just me at 15 ranting into a camera like, oh, this sucks. I hated everything about this. And I would get comments being like, you're too young for YouTube. Come back when you're older. And I haven't stopped. Like, I've always taken breaks from YouTube because I'm like, oh, I don't know what I want my content to be. And that's how I've been with streaming as well. Like, I've been streaming since like 2017. been off and on between Twitch and YouTube. And I had hit affiliate way before I actually accepted it, but I wasn't ready for the responsibility. And in 2020, when I had all this free time, I was like, yep, I'm going to accept it. And I want my career path to be professional content creator. I've loved it. I've loved going into streaming, and I think it's really fulfilling to me. I have my off days where I'm like, oh, this stream didn't do as well, but I try my best to just stay motivated. I'm like, I'll just keep trying different things and doing what I love and making sure that I stay true to what I like, because I don't know, I've never been a fan of hopping on certain games just to get views. It's never been for me. I'll sit here and play Lego games because I'm like, oh, that's what I'm feeling to play. There's like 20 people in the category watching it, but I'll stick to it and I'm still gonna play it because that's what I enjoy playing.
Would you say that's quite an important thing, though? Like, if you are a Twitch streamer or a content creator, to play the things you want to play rather than chasing trends, as you were saying?
I would say to an extent. I would say if you want to try a trend, there's no problem with it. Because like you could end up loving it. Let's say you have never really played a battle royal, but if you try it and you end up liking it, that's great. I think that's perfect to hop on a trend and try it. And if you like it, keep sticking with it. I think that's perfectly okay. But I could never just go on a trend and if I absolutely disliked it, just keep going with it. I would absolutely hate streaming at that point if all I did was stream games I did not like and it was just, oh, this is a popular game right now, but it's getting me views. I just wouldn't end up happy doing that.
Because I have to admit, you can see like a lot of streamers who, I don't want to say streamline their content, but they have like one particular game that they're focused on, whether it's new games like, this is going to date the episode when I'm like, Elden Ring.
I was gonna say about Elden Ring being a trend right now.
Do you know, I can't remember if I told you this off the recording, but I went to get my hair cut the other day and there was this guy loudly like talking to the barber and he was saying things like, oh, I need a new set of armour and I've got to get a new weapon. And in my head I was like, please tell me he's talking about Elden Ring, please tell me he's talking about Elden Ring. It's like, please tell me he's not. And then of course he brought up dragons and things and I'm like, okay, Elden Ring, right, okay, we're good. But even there, it's like you can't escape it, can you?
I saw the Elden Ring trend and I was like, I am not good at these type of games. I've played Dark Souls 2 for about 10 minutes and I'm like, yep, not my kind of game. And I was like, I liked Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is the closest thing to it. So that's what I've started streaming. I was like, oh, it's close enough. Maybe it'll catch on. And I'm currently editing my stream of it and I'm going to call it like the Elden Ring of Star Wars and semi hop on the trend, but just in a different style.
Yeah, it's like fantasy, but with laser swords.
Exactly.
I see what you mean, though. Like, it is kind of, I wouldn't say annoying, because it's maybe not that far, but it's like, whenever you see, like, a game trending, and you're like, oh, I wonder what this is, I wonder if I can play it, and then it's something like Elden Ring, Dark Souls type games, and you're like, no, no, this is not my cup of tea, pour that tea down the sink, that is not mine, and you're just like, oh. Would you say that as well, like, it is quite difficult, see, trying to play something on stream that you're not really into?
Oh, absolutely. I so want to get into like these harder games because they bring in views of people wanting to see you like get enraged by it. But I know my game skill level. Like I know that it would just end up with me getting frustrated, not in a funny way, and I would just be like, "Oh, I don't want to play this." I've thought about it and I'm like, I wish I could have that skill level, but I know that it's just not achievable to me. And I'm fine just staying in my own lane and supporting other people that do play it. I'm like, oh, my best friend plays it. I'll watch him play it and I'll feel good just watching him play it because he's actually decent at it.
Funny enough, I've got a friend who absolutely loves the Dark Souls games, so much so that he actually wrote his dissertation on it,
Oh wow.
talking about the morality and things of like the Dark Souls universe, and my god, it's one hell of a read. Honest to God, it's like you'll get people like my friend who are really into the series, know the ins and outs and everything, and just like are so immersed in the world, and that's perfectly fine. But if you get, what's the word that the kids say, casual plebs, like myself, and they're just like, yeah, I'm not, I'll stick to Sonic and Fall Guys and things like that. You kids have fun with your Elden Scrolls and your Dark Rings and everything. You enjoy that.
The only rings I want are Sonic rings.
Exactly. Thank you for that. It's like, thank you for humouring me. Going back to Twitch for a moment, I'm quite curious about the origin, see for your name, BadGamesJules. Where did that come from?
So I've gone by many usernames in my time, but in high school is when I started to really like get serious about like YouTube and Twitch. I wasn't as serious as I am now, but I was like considering it being like a career. But back then that it still wasn't really a career to most people. But my friend, I told him I was sitting in class. I was like, I want a new username. My former one was like really embarrassing. It was like Magic Zatanna. And I was like, this doesn't fit my personality at all. And he was like, well, you play bad games on YouTube. And I was like, well, Bad Games Julie doesn't sound good. He's like, well, start going by Jules. It has a better ring. So I was like, oh, so Bad Games Jules? He was like, yeah, that's it. That's the money. And I purely was only playing bad games. Like I played Walking Dead Survival Instinct on the Wii U. I was playing horrible shovelware Wii games on my channel. And that's what I would just constantly play those because I was like, oh, people just like seeing bad games. And then when I started doing streaming, I was like, playing bad games is it just takes a lot out of you to only purely play terrible games. So when I start playing like good games and games that I liked, I was bad at them because I'm just bad at video games. So it became a double meaning of playing bad games and being bad at the games.
Because I was going to say, like, I have seen some of your streams, and quite honestly, I say this to a lot of streamers, but genuinely, whenever I come into your stream, you're always, 9 times out of 10, you're usually playing like a chilled out game. For example, Animal Crossing. I was just trying to remember. Yeah, was it you that was playing The Last of Us 2 ages ago?
Yes, I just beat it like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, because I was going to say, oh yeah, you play very easygoing games like The Last of Us 2. It's like, yeah, Animal Crossing, yes. The Last of Us 2, maybe not.
And it also arrives in my bad game opinions. I'm notoriously known for not liking the first Last of Us game, and I remember when it came out, it was around my birthday when the first one came out, and I was like so excited because I love Naughty Dog. I love the Uncharted series, and I popped it in. I was like, oh, this is just gonna be Uncharted, but with like a way cooler story and with like zombies. Like I told the person at GameStop that it was my birthday, and she even handed me the poster in the door, like the
Aw.
official Last of Us poster in the door, because she was like, oh, we won't need this after today because it's just the release day. I was like, oh, sweet. So I go home, I start playing, and I'm like, okay, this is a little slow. And the more I get through it, I'm like, is it gonna pick up? Oh, the stealth is kind of wonky. The story, I'm seeing it from like a mile away. I won't spoil it, but I completely predicted the ending. I was like, oh, that happened. And then when the sequel was announced, I was like, oh, here we go again. And my friends just kept constantly joking about me playing it. They're like, oh, you're gonna stream it, you're gonna stream it. And I was like, I will eventually. And it was a charity goal of mine to play it if we hit a certain goal, and we did. And I was like, all right, yep, I'm gonna play it. And I just finished it like a couple weeks ago, and I have so many just mixed feelings about it.
Well, all I can say is you would really get along with my co-host of the podcast, Adam. He really does not like The Last of Us. I think he was, at the time, until obviously I just found out with you there, I think that was one of his most controversial gaming opinions, where he was just like, I really don't like that game. And I was like, really? Because everybody seems to love it. But then again, the last time I played it was like a friend's PlayStation at university, and I remember him going away randomly at one point, and I think the most exciting thing that happened in the game was him going to his room, getting angry over something and smashing a toasty machine. I remember that moment a lot more than I do for most of that game, because I look back at some of the scenes and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, who's that character? Oh, I don't know. Would you say it's one of those games that because it kind of had a running start with its reputation, that's why it's so widely beloved now?
I definitely think because Naughty Dog had a spectacular reputation beforehand, people just kept the mindset of this is a good game. And I can see why people like the story. People really emotionally connect with it. It just didn't resonate with me. Oh, I can just predict this. I want to know what happens. I want to be right. I was kind of annoying with it. I was like, I want to be right. I know this is going to happen. I remember on Twitter when I posted when the game came out, I was like, this is a bad game. All my friends were like, what do you mean? This is the worst opinion you've ever ever had. And I kept seeing like 10 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s, and I'm like, did I play just the wrong game? Like, I thought it was mediocre at best, and I can get why people like it story-wise, but I was more of just like, it's just it wasn't for me.
I mean, and that's perfectly fine. It's different tastes for different people, but it is when you see a game like that, and as you said, everyone's saying 10 out of 10, game of the year, best thing since sliced bread, and you're like, I mean, it was good.
Yeah.
I feel as if this is like an argument I use quite a lot as I get older with gaming. I'm like, objectively, it's a good game, but story wise, so I have to like split it up to be like, it's well made, but what the hell was the story?
Definitely. There's a lot of games where I can separate the story is bad, but the gameplay's fun. Horizon Zero Dawn, I really tried my best again. That's another game everyone is like, best game 10 out of 10. But I found the gameplay fun, but I could not connect with the story. I was just skipping, I was pressing X the entire time when dialogue was happening. I was like, let me get back to just being with the robots and stuff and all that, and all these mechs and things. That was cool. But I tried to sit through the story and I'm like, oh, it's just not hitting any points for me.
So when you're playing the sequel on stream,
Maybe I'll make that another charity goal this year.
yeah,
When I do another charity stream.
it's like, I love your support, guys, but god damn you. Just god damn you.
My chat loves to see me suffer. I still have a running thing on my stream. I last September I did one sub is one jelly bean, and I bought a whole bunch of random jelly beans of the bean boozles, spicy ones, sour ones. I got like thousands of jelly beans, and I just put them all in a bowl and I mixed them all up, so I had no clue what any of them were. And I did one sub is one bean. And I must have eaten like over 200 beans because my community just loved hearing my reactions of being disgusted by how many bean boozles I kept getting, or how many spicy beans would just make me stop and just start crying because of how spicy they were. And it still has continued. Like after September, I was like, oh, I still have a couple jelly beans left. I'll keep doing it until I run out. And then I did like start running out, and they're like, buy more beans. And I was like, you know what? Okay. So even to this day, when someone like subscribes to me, I'll still eat jelly beans. I still replenish the bowl of jelly beans because it's just such a staple with my community of making me suffer with jelly beans.
Is it like that scene in The Godfather? I think it's The Godfather, but it's like that scene where he says, when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I can just imagine, you finish like the last of the jelly beans, you're like, you sit down triumphant thinking that's the last of it, and you just hear, a knock on the door, and you just open it and it's just a tub waiting for you, and it's like, yep, the challenge never ended, Jules.
They keep every time a new month happens, they try to throw like jelly bean into the month title because it's just still going, and I'm just like, I've run with it. I need to just get a bunch of like emotes now of just jelly beans, because one of my mascots that I have for my channel is the Animal Crossing character Scoot, because my community absolutely loves him. One of my like VIP viewers that has been with me ever since I've been like affiliate, he absolutely adores Scoot, and his name, even we call him Scoot. He always is like for me suffering on stream, and he's like the reason I ate like 200 beans during September, because he was just like, oh, you replenished the beans, okay. And then just gifted me a bunch of them as like bean every time. Now in chat, whenever I get like any sort of like sub or bits, it's just, you see my chat saying bean, 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 bean. Like they just know, it's just a response at this point.
I can just imagine like the confusion for any newcomer saying like, hi, I'm new to Twitch, and being, like, what?
Do you mean banned? Am I being banned right now?
I don't... What is this? I was actually going to ask you just about your experience with Twitch, and I was going to ask like if you had any challenges along the way. But I mean, other than being related.
I think my biggest challenge is because I have just generalized anxiety. So I don't stream with a webcam. And that's like a huge thing on Twitch of no webcam, no view. Like I've seen so many discussions on it of, oh, if you don't even have like at least like an avatar in the corner, I don't want to see it. And I feel like I'm way funnier when I don't show my face. I feel like I have more natural reactions when I don't show my face, and I feel way more comfortable with it because I'm the type of old school streamer that's like, I care a lot about the game, and of course the personalities for streamers as well. But one of my favorite streamers is Vine Sauce, and he never shows his face. Like he's only done it a couple times, but he just focuses on the game and like making jokes around the game, and his personality really just shines through, so you don't need to see his face. And that's what I strive to be, because I just feel way more comfortable without a webcam, but I know a lot of like viewers just go into the stream and they're like, "Oh, no webcam. I can't relate to the streamer." But I always try my best to have my reactions seem as genuine and as natural as possible so you can relate with me even without seeing me.
It seems like a really weird attitude to take because as someone is part of the hashtag no facecam gang, I'm in the same boat. Like when I started streaming, I did not have a webcam at all, and I still don't. Nobody knows what this person looks like.
A red panda controlling a computer.
Exactly. I like to think that's what people think that is just like, have you ever, and this is maybe a slight spoiler to Silent Hill, but have you ever seen that ending to one of the
Yes,
Silent
I love that ending.
but instead of the dog, it's just a red panda. The
Yes.
computer that's like, it was you the entire time. Yeah, I totally get what you mean because I'm personally as well, I'm really not comfortable with showing my face on like camera and things. Like even when I'm in my day job, I have to go on like Zoom calls and things, and I'm like, okay, that's enough camera for one day. So that's why I kind of went with I say VTuber, but it's more of a PNG. But I went more for that route because I wanted to kind of present something there. But I know exactly what you mean. It just seems quite backwards when people say, I don't want to watch this because there's like no face attached. Because I get what they're going for, like
Yeah.
saying, oh, there's nothing to like attach yourself to and everything. But I mean, I've seen plenty of like face cam streamers who are like the complete opposite. Like they've got a camera there, but they don't interact with the chat. I'm pretty sure one of them blasted my eardrums off because it was like a Call of Duty one. And I came in to support this guy and I was like, okay, there. And then it was like, like the horrible audio quality was like,
Oh, yeah.
her. And I was like, oh, Jesus. I was like shouting for the rest of the day, going, what? I can't hear you. But I mean, your layout, I have to say, is pretty comfy, though.
Yeah, because like I remember I saw a poll on YouTube for some streamer that I saw, and it was just polling people of, do you watch people without a webcam? And a majority of them say no, and that was just eye opening to me. I don't know. I've never been one to judge people's streams on if they have a webcam or not. I think it's just purely on just your personality on whether I want to keep supporting someone. I remember the first stream I watched of yours was Red Dead 2, and I was like, this guy's really funny. And I didn't need to see your face to know that. It was just you were laughing along with the game. And I like when streamers, because like, I don't know, I tend to see some stream clips of streamers when they have face cams, and you can tell like they're just hamming it up a little bit. And it just turns me off sometimes when I see clips of that. And it's just like, oh, you just want a nice thumbnail. And we always want like good reaction shots for like future video thumbnails and stuff. But when it just happened, like you'll have like a shocked face for like longer than like 10 seconds. I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know. I watch all sorts of streamers. Like, I like VTubers, I like webcams, I like faceless streamers. I just think as long as you relate with your chat and you're trying to just always talk to your chat, I think you're doing fine. And if you are not comfortable with a webcam, don't force yourself to be comfortable because you're just gonna make yourself anxious and stressed and you're just gonna hate streaming because of it.
I totally see what you mean, just in terms of having to like stress a reaction and like no shade against, people who are like just trying to make good content and things, but I see exactly what you mean when they've got like the Pog champ face on for like
Yes.
10 minutes. So you're like, okay, we get it, you're shocked. But I see exactly what you mean because even when I'm on, like, as I said, if I'm on like a Zoom meeting or something, and then I catch a glimpse of my own face, and I'm like, "Oh, Satsu, you just look bored. Come on, put a smile in there." And I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" Oh God, it honestly must just be quite tiring because that is the thing that I think a lot of people don't really appreciate. Twitch streamers that they'll say, "Oh, it's just sitting down and playing a video game."
Yeah, I see that so much, and I'm just like, oh, how you don't know?
How the turnstable and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like, especially with your content, because I've seen like how much effort you put in, how much you interact with your community, because you are definitely one of the streamers out there that whenever someone comes into the chat, you're always just like, hey there, how's it going and things. And I think it's like very welcoming.
Hmm.
Whereas like if you have someone who's saying, I can imagine if you were doing like your Pokemon card opening streams or things like that, and you just didn't talk to the chat, it would be awkward. And I'm not saying just like for you specifically, but I just mean
Hmm.
in general, you get ones like that and you're just like, why is nobody talking? Has the streamer done something wrong? Have I done something wrong? What's going on here?
I've seen, like, certain streamers that, like, enforce policies of, "If my chat isn't talkative, I won't talk," and I'm like, What does that benefit anything?" I've seen, like, weird posts pop up of, like, if there's no chat message within, like, 10 minutes, I'm going into no talking mode or stuff like that, and I'm like, "That is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen."
Absolutely. That just sounds like a child, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I get it's hard to see when people aren't talking in your chat because, I mean, you've seen some of my streams where I just talk an utter load of rubbish for God knows how long. But it's like, I would rather just kind of keep that up than someone
Yeah.
coming in being like, hey guys, how's it going? And then it's just like, no talk, me angry. And you're like, okay, I'm going now.
It honestly baffles me when people don't interact with chat. One of my friends, she's a streamer and she's mute. She can't talk, but she talks in like she types in her chat. And if she can interact with her chat while she's playing with a game, anyone should be able to do that in my opinion. Like if she can keep chat interactive and she greets every single person who comes in and talks to them in the chat while she's still playing the game and multitasking like that, I it's not hard to at least say, "Oh, hey, welcome to the stream," or "Thanks for coming in." It's simple things like that that make people feel welcomed into your community.
Would you say that strong communication with your community is like a vital thing for going into Twitch streaming?
Definitely. I definitely agree with that because I know my core community is my group of friends, but I still, every time I make a schedule, I put in my Discord. Anytime anything is happening, I put it in my Discord, even if I'm like, oh, it doesn't get that many reactions, but at least people can know when I'm streaming, when I'm doing this, what I'm thinking about doing. I think even if there's no immediate reactions, there's still in your head, like, people can see this, it is accessible for people to see, and there's no excuse to be like, "Oh, I didn't know when you were streaming. I didn't know this." Because I put it on my Twitter, I put it on Instagram, I put it everywhere. So anyone who's in my community that let's say they don't have a Twitter, but they're in my Discord. I put my schedule in my Discord so everyone can see it whenever. I put it on my Twitch when my schedule is so that everyone can always see when I'm going to stream. And I think that's really benefited me recently because when I used to make a schedule, I would just simply blast it on my Twitter and call it a day. And then I would get people in my chat being like, I don't know when you stream. And it really made me think, like, let me try to put this everywhere and have the most open communication as possible. And I've started recently at the end of stream saying, this is when I'm going to stream again. So people can know, hey, this is when you'll be live. And I've been trying to be more consistent time wise. So it's like, oh, it's 7:30. This is when Jules streams. And I think open communication with your community is always best, even if they don't respond back, but they still see it.
I was in a similar boat when I started, and you know that way when you start out and you put out your going live tweet, and then
Yeah.
it's like the shocked Pikachu face where it's like, why is nobody here? And it's like, well, because A, you've not got many followers, and B, and B, no one's going to be like, oh wow, random streamer 42 is going on. But you're completely right. You have to, yeah, diversify where you're announcing your content. I was going to make a joke and be like, yes, I sometimes, just go in street corners and just yell, I'm going live, and people go, who the hell are you? But
All exposure is good exposure.
exactly. Billboards pay for themselves. That's why I'm in crippling debt. But anyway, no, I'm okay. It's just a red panda, and people are like, what the hell is that?
It's not cheap being a panda.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of deflecting from my own poor life choices, you yourself are, is it right to say, like a cosplay connoisseur, is it there?
Absolutely. I've been cosplaying since Valentine's Day of 2018. So
Oh,
I've been doing
wow.
it for quite a while now. My friends got me into it. I thought for years, like I was like, oh, cosplaying looks cool, but I don't have the body for it. I wouldn't look good in it, and I just kept telling myself that. And surprisingly, I got into anime late into my life, like into college. Everyone like assumes like, oh, you watched anime when you were like a child. I was like, Pokemon was it, and that was kind of the anime that I watched. But I got into it really late, and I was like, anime's pretty cool. And I'm like, I like these characters. So I started to like look into the cosplay community and I just saw friends that cosplay and they're like, it's so much fun to go to conventions and cosplay. The first convention that I went to, I cosplayed Kazuichi Soda from Danganronpa 2. He has bright pink hair and he wears a bright yellow jumpsuit. And I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. And then the rest of the days that I was there, I didn't cosplay. And I was like, I regret not doing it because it's really fun to do. But after that con, that's when I really started to get into cosplay because I was like, it's such a fun thing to do. Even if because I still feel self conscious to this day as a plus size cosplayer about buying cosplay because I have so many experiences of just buying a cosplay, being so excited for it to arrive because it takes months because it's always from like China or like other places to get your cosplays. And then when they arrive and then you try it on and you're like, oh, this doesn't quite fit. And it just feels so deflating. But then when I like the most recent cosplay that I got was Emporio from JoJo Part 6. And I put it on and it fits so perfectly. And I was like, this is the best cosplay ever. I still haven't gotten to Part 6 of JoJo, but as soon as I saw the character, I was like, I want to cosplay him. I love baseball, so I was like, this is perfect. And I'm very short, so I was like, I could pull off being like a small child. And so I went to Katsucon in him, and the few JoJo fans that I did see were like, oh my gosh, Emporio. And I even had like a baseball and everything that I was just carrying around. But the problem is like the socks that he wears. When I tried it on, I was like, yep, this is good. And then I took it off. I didn't walk around in it, but they kept falling down. So everyone at con says that cosplays has always had like a cosplay malfunction. My girlfriend, she was cosplaying Junko and she broke her like heel like of her shoe in the middle of the convention. And she was just like, well, I guess that just happens. It's like, this isn't like a normal everyday occurrence. It's just such a like a cosplay problem of breaking your heel in a convention.
Because I have heard, again, this is coming from someone who hasn't really tried cosplaying. Well, sorry, I technically have one, but again, I'm in the camp of too shy to try one day. But I remember reading up on it, and I don't know if this is the case for like UK cons. Any UK cosplayers out there, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was a lot of things I saw where there's cosplay emergency stations and things like that.
Yes.
And people who carry like packs around, like with the tape and the threaded needle and things like that, and just whatever you need to like fix your cosplay right on the thing. Is that true for those?
In cons here, they call them the cosplay fairies.
Oh, right.
They will dress up in like an emergency outfit, or at Katsucon, there was the cosplay fairy and they had a full fairy outfit and they were just rolling around like a full size container of just stuff. And I was just like, wow. Because I've never handmade any of my cosplay before. I do not have the talent and I have not studied up on how to make them. But I was like, that's very selfless of people to just be around conventions and you can just go to them for any sort of crisis you have. And I really appreciate those people. And I think those people don't get enough credit for what they do.
It must just be so comforting to know that they are around, though.
Yeah, of course. But like at bigger conventions like Katsucon, it's kind of hard to find them though because Katsucon is like 20,000 people. But at smaller cons, you can definitely find them anywhere. But they are very appreciated within the cosplay community.
I was going to say, they need like a big sign or an umbrella or something to find them, like Katsuko, to be like, I'm over here. It's like, okay, I'm on my way.
They need their own section in the convention to go to.
It would probably be worth it. I mean, some of the cons I've gone to, I have to admit, I've not gone to like nearly as big a con as that, so I can't imagine like the size that must be. Because I always remember, I think the biggest one I've went to is, it was either one in Edinburgh or Glasgow. I think it was the one in Glasgow. And I remember going there and thinking, wow, this is massive, coming from like, you know, someone who's only been to like really small scale ones. Where it's like you'll get the odd cosplayer or two. And it's quite funny because in one of the ones I went to, it was kind of integrated into a shopping centre. So it would be like, you would go, you know, you would see the stalls and things, and then you would come out and it would be like Master Chief eating like a McDonald's. Everything like that. You'd be like, okay, that's
perfect product placement.
Exactly. This stream's sponsored by... No, I'm only kidding. It's not. But if anybody's listening, call me. But I was going to ask if you had any favourite moments, but in all honesty, it does sound like every moment when you cosplay in these cons is like a favourite moment.
Yeah, my favorite moment was probably I had a photo shoot for Danganronpa 2, and it was the Remnants version, basically like the evil versions of the characters. And I worked on this because like my character has these night vision goggles, and I bought like a $10 VR headset, and I transformed it into like night vision goggles. We were taking pictures because like a photo shoot that we're doing. I had like so many people come up to me and were like, "Hey, can we take pictures? Can we take pictures?" And I'm just like, "Oh wow, I feel like a celebrity." But any sort of time where anyone comes up to me and is like, can I get a picture with you? I just get such a instant rush of like, wow, I did this cosplay so well. But my favorite moment would probably be when, because my girlfriend does idol type of performances, and her group won the masquerade, which is like the contest at conventions, and they won first place. I recorded like all of it, so I have like all the reactions and stuff on, and that was probably my favorite moment because of just how happy I was for them for working so hard.
I have to admit, I've never really sat in and watched them because I would feel, oh, it's like the reverse of, you know, that meme where it's like your custom character in a cutscene?
Yeah.
I feel like it would be the opposite of that, where it would be all these amazing cosplayers and just me sitting in my normal clothes, like, yeah, I don't belong in this section of the con. I haven't even bought a hoodie that resembles anything. But from what I've seen of them, you know, you always hear the music blaring like in one corner of the convention. You're like, oh, I wonder what that is. You know, other than like the actual costumes themselves, which look absolutely fantastic. Although I remember one of my friends got confused. I think it was around 2011, 2012 when, you know, Doctor Who
Hmm.
in Matt Smith's run when he was wearing a fez at the time.
Yes.
And my co host is going to kill me for telling this story, but we went to this convention and everyone was wearing, you know, the fezzes, the bow ties and things. And he turned around to us and he said, oh, glad to see Tommy Cooper's making a revival. Who's like this old British magician who wore a fez and everything. And I remember we all turned to him like saying, what? He's like, yeah, you know, all the faces. And we're like, is Doctor Who their cosplaying? He's like, what? What are you talking about? I think he was joking. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he was joking, but I have to admit, sometimes when you see people who do like have you ever seen that? They do like the hybrid cosplay,
Yes.
where they just like push two things together and it's like
Yeah.
a guessing game of who are you combined with?
I definitely have. I've had that experience twice of people coming up to me and asking if it's something, and it's not that. My first experience, and the one that makes the most sense to me, is I was cosplaying Leo from Fairy Tale, and he has this orange spiky hair, and he wears a suit. And someone came up to me and was like, "Are you Ichigo from Bleach?" I was like, "No, I've never even seen Bleach," and they're just like, they like walked away disappointed, and I was just like, "I'm so sorry." And then this other experience I had, I was like I was a formal version of the main character of Danganronpa 1, Makoto. And I don't know how the connection really stemmed besides like just the red tie, but someone was like, "Are you Light from Death Note?" And I was just like, "No, I'm from a completely different game." They're like, "No, I'm pretty sure you're cosplaying Light." It's like I guess I could look like him. He's like, "Nah, that's definitely what you're cosplaying." And it's like, "Okay." Like, "All right, if that's what you think."
Oh, that is the worst. See, when you're going for one thing and people are just like, no, you're this. And it's like, I think I know my own cosplay or my own character. Thank you very much. Obviously, not the same thing, but like I get that a lot in streams where people come in and go, oh, that's a cute fox. And you know, it's like, it is easy enough, you know, to mix up the two. So usually I'll be polite and say, oh, no, it's a red panda. Ha ha ha. But I remember one person came into one of my streams and they were like, cute fox. And I was like, oh, haha, it's actually a red panda. No, it's a fox. And I was like, I mean, I've been streaming for over a year at this point. I think I know what character I'm going
We
for.
have a fox expert here. They
Yeah,
fox detective.
a fox enthusiast. They're just like typing angrily as they wear the I Heart Foxes t-shirt on, and you're like, yeah. From what I've seen like some of your cosplays, and they are like absolutely fantastic. Like you put a lot of
Thank
care
you.
and attention to them. But you must be like an expert by now at conventions and things.
I try to think that I am, but there's some like my first Katsucon that I went to, I was so lost because it's just there's like 3 floors of it, and you're constantly like looking at the map like this doesn't make any sense. But the first convention I went to was a smaller one, and then the second one was like a little bit bigger, but it was still small. And then Katsucon is just like boom, a lot of people. It's not like Anime Expo with like hundreds of thousands, but the first time you're in a crowded hallway where you're just meshed together with people, it's just like a do I want to be here with all these people around me? This is pre-COVID, but it's just like, oh, there's so many people and I feel claustrophobic. But I feel like I have a good grasp on cons that I've been to, and I want to go. One of my ultimate goals in life is to go to a convention in every state. I've been to some out of state ones, but I typically stay to the East Coast for now. And I think the best advice I can always give people that are new to conventions is you don't have to cosplay. I know it feels like you do, but I promise you, you don't have to. No one is out here like, ew, you're not in a cosplay, you don't belong here. I've never thought that. I've never had friends that think that, and it's just a general thing. You don't have to. And I've seen people ask, like, is it required to have a cosplay to go to a convention? It's not.
I'm just sorry. I'm just thinking of like when you go to a club and you have the bouncers.
Yeah.
On my list was like not in cosplay. Sorry, mate. Go away. It's like, but I've got a geeky T-shirt on. It's like, no, not enough. Go put on your light cosplay. You know. You're like,
You must be in a full JoJo attire to enter this convention.
you must be at least this JoJo to enter this establishment.
I definitely think some good advice is just you don't have to be in cosplay. Always bring water. You will get dehydrated. Always eat. There's like a very known thing in like the cosplay con scene of I don't eat, I don't take any breaks, I just go go go. And I think no, you need to stop and eat. You need to sit down every now and then to just like breathe, because like a lot of the con scene is just overbooking yourself. Like at one convention I went to, an Otakon, which is in DC, I booked back-to-back photo shoots and I was stressing out the entire day because the one photo shoot I was in, the first one, it was running a little bit longer and I'm just like, I need to change out of this cosplay and get into a completely different other one. It worked out. Like when I arrived, I was even early to the next photo shoot because people still hadn't arrived. But my advice is definitely not to just overbook yourself. Like know what your limits are and just focus on that and actually feel like you need to take breaks. Because Otakon is in the summertime, and this is another thing that happens in the cosplay community, is wearing cosplays that are not season appropriate. In DC, it's like super hot and muggy and humid during the summer. So I wore a full-on suit and I went down the street just to get a slice of pizza to eat. I was like dying of like heat stroke by the time I returned to the convention. And then Katsucon is in wintertime and it's windy. And when I was at the JoJo photo shoot, I was wearing short sleeves and I was freezing, but I could not imagine what some of these cosplayers are wearing. Like Jolene, for example, has like the open stomach, no sleeves. Everyone's just like freezing. And I'm just like, sometimes it's not worth it to just freeze for your cosplay or completely die of like heat stroke for your cosplay. But a lot of my cosplays are more suited for the winter, even though I go to more summery cons. And I'm just like, maybe I should stop wearing suits and stuff like that. But a lot of people just think, oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And then when they get to the convention, it's just like, oh, I'm exhausted.
Like I've seen a lot of posts from cosplay streamers or just cosplayers in general who, you know, the way like a cosplayer will post a photo and you know the outfit will look amazing and the lighting's perfect and everything, but then they'll post like the occasional behind the scenes video where it's like them trying to get out a taxi with like 10-foot wings and things like that.
Oh, yes.
I honestly cannot even imagine trying to like get out and walk all the way to the con with accessories like attached to your back or coming out your arms and things. Because see, even people who wear like, for example, Halo or even God forbid like Gears of War or things like that, you know, the big armor that you have to put on. Oh, I cannot imagine that. Because even when I go, and this shows how much of a wimp I am, but whenever I go, I usually wear like a kind of geeky hoodie because that's as far as I'm going so far. I say that, but you know, it's been 2 years since I went to my last convention as of this episode, but even in a hoodie, like I'm absolutely stewing because there's so many people around you, you know, and you just get so warm. So I can't imagine, as you said, I can't imagine being in a full suit or something, or just, oh no, I would just be a sweaty mess. I'd be like, take the picture, take it down.
I've kind of had that experience because one of my cosplays has like a really spiky tall wig. When I would enter the Uber to go to the convention, I'm just like, please don't say anything. Please don't say anything. And it just like starts touching the top of the roof. And I'm like, oh, this is the worst. That's another thing, is traveling with wigs. I hate doing it because they just always get ruined. I hate styling wigs, even though it's just a vital part of it. Most troublesome I've had with a wig is Momo from My Hero Academia. She has that really spiked ponytail. So I was just spraying it with like hairspray and like hair glue and all this mess, and it just kept drooping. And I was like, how do I get this to work? So I'm like looking up tutorials and like nothing's really helping. And I was like, what if I just leave it hanging upside down? And that ended up working. I was like, oh, so I guess gravity was the solution here.
Of course, gravity, your one weakness. I mean, like as I said before, you do put an insane amount of like effort into your cosplays, and it really does show. You must honestly be so proud of them after you get past the Uber drive there. And the guy's like, "Don't say anything, don't say anything." So are you going to a convention?
Some of them will be like, "Oh, I see you're going to the convention." Then other times it's just like weird looks, and I'm just like, I get it. We both just don't want to talk about it because whenever I go out of state, I'm always like relying on Ubers. But the worst experiences I ever have are just like clearly I'm not from here, and I'm going to my hotel, and the Uber driver will be like, "So, do you know how to get there?" Like, I'm relying on you for this, buddy. I don't know anything around here.
I feel like that's a prerequisite for a taxi driver. Saying like, "So where are we going?" And it's like, "Well, we're going to this address." Okay, where's that? And I'm like,
It's gonna be one of those days.
yeah. It's like, oh boy, I can't wait for that. Speaking of, well, not bad experience, because I don't want to end on like a sour note, but are there any other things you would point out to new con goers or people who are thinking about going to a convention, whether they're cosplaying or not? Is there anything you would say, oh, look out for this or look out for that?
Recently, there was a con I was going to go to next month that ended up being a scam,
Oh, wow.
and it was a con in North Carolina that I was gonna go travel down to, and I bought the tickets in February because they did a whole sale of it. It was a first time convention, so my thing is now like if it's a first time con, be very very cautious with it because it seemed pretty legit throughout the entire thing. Because my friend who lives in North Carolina was like, "Yeah, we should go to this," because it had a funny name. It was called CLT. So we kept making fun of the name. And we're like, "Yeah, we'll go down to it and we'll vlog and it'll be the funniest thing ever." So we joined like their Discord and we were all aboard for it. Like I said, I bought my ticket when I did like a 25% off sale. And I was like, it's a first time con, so I'm slightly cautious of it. Just as things kept going on, more people kept asking questions about it. Like they were offering like a $5,000 prize for a tournament, and none of the games were listed on the page or any of the consoles. They had like two guests, like one was from Genshin and one was Kira Buckland, who voices Jolene and JoJo. So I was like, oh, that's pretty legit. They got this huge voice actress in here. But like the schedule that they posted looked a little sketchy because it was like people kept asking, is this a 2 day con? Is it a 3 day con? And they're like, we're not sure. And
Well, that's
then people
promising.
then people started checking with the hotel that it was booked with, and they had like no recollection of it. So honestly, if you're sketched out by something or like a con that doesn't seem legit, contact the hotel. If they have no recollection of them hosting it there, then it's probably pretty sketch because like the con was only like a couple months away, so that stuff should be booked well in advance from a convention perspective. But what also just sketched me out was just how last second everything seemed. Like there was no concrete planning of things. The Discord just completely imploded once people were asking like who the con organizer was, and he was just refusing to answer who it was, and he ended up being like some grand larcenist. Everyone's still trying to like completely piece together everything that's happening with this convention. But thankfully, I didn't plan travel plans yet. I got my money back from the ticket. Like the company that ran the ticket sales thankfully issued refunds. But if the con is I would say if a con has happened before and people have said that it's happened before, you can trust it. But if it's a first time con, like it's never happened and there's just I don't know. If you've never heard of the people running the convention, I would say be very on your guard of it. Because Kira had posted on her Instagram that she was going to the convention, so that basically was like, oh, this has to be legit if the voice actress is like confirmed to go. But that's not always the case. It can be they're also duped as well from the convention being a scam. But I would say for first time, if you're going to a con for the first time, keep it to like a smaller con. Don't go to like Anime Expo or like conventions with like 30,000 people because you will definitely get overwhelmed at first. I would say start at like a smaller local con with like maybe like 1,000 people and see how that goes, and then work your way up, which is what I did. But my only local convention options are two of like the biggest cons on the East Coast. So that's why I started like further down in like North Carolina. But I would always say stick to conventions conventions that have happened before and stick to small ones for your first convention.
No, I totally agree with that. I think I was in a similar boat of when I started going to conventions, I went to one that was fairly local and it probably was about the same, maybe 1,000, like not, or maybe not even 1,000, like a couple hundred anyway. But yeah, it's easy enough not getting overwhelmed by them, but eventually I like ended up going to an actual Comic Con, or is it MCM Comic Con?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started like going to them and I was like, this is a lot bigger, but at least I've kind of been to like a convention before that's smaller. I kind of know what to expect. I'm getting my riot shield ready, you know, to barge my way through all the stalls. Yeah, at least for that one, the first Comic Con one I went to, it was a lot more spacious for the location because some of them, I have to admit, it's not been overly bad, but have you ever had that where it just feels quite cramped?
Oh, definitely. Katsucon, there's just this infamous one hallway between one part of the convention center and the other. That's literally just two lanes that are just bunched up together, and just cannot help but touch like the other person in front of you. I've definitely felt Otakon. I probably had like an anxiety attack if I stayed more into the convention. I mostly stayed in the side hotel, but it just there's even a policy at Otakon when I went the year that I went that you could not take pictures in the convention because of how crowded it is. You have to go to the hotel aside if you wanted to take pictures because you would stop the flow of traffic.
I can't imagine that just being wedged in between all the cosplayers. Just like, I just want to go to that booth, and it's like, no, you're one with the flow now.
It's always a funny meme in the cosplay community of people not showering or using deodorant. So everyone's always like, oh, conventions smell pretty ripe. Thankfully, I haven't had terrible experiences like that, but I've heard many people say that a lot of con goers just don't shower. But that's another piece of advice: always, always shower when you go to conventions.
No, yeah, I've heard that as well. Although I don't think I've had too many bad experiences. Yeah, totally agree. Like, even over here, it's like people are very nose savvy, if that even makes sense, if that's a term. You know, where they're like, okay, we've got our deodorant, we have had a shower, that's fine. But I couldn't imagine being in like a room trapped and it's all these sweaty people. And I'm not saying they're sweaty, I'm just saying because it's a warm room. I
Yeah.
don't want to insult any concourse and be like, ugh. But you know, because everybody is going to be quite hot and everything. But yeah, just plot one person who hasn't showered, and yeah, that's just a recipe for disaster. So yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Before we wrap up, though, you were saying before that you're planning to go to. This will probably date the episode, as I said to you, like off the recording, but obviously 2 years ago, as of recording this, we had the shall not be named pandemic, which swept the globe, so a lot of cons started shutting down, and it's only kind of recently that all over the world are kind of slowly opening back up. So are you going to any?
Katsucon I just went to was in February, and I thought they handled it really well. Like the mask policies, you need to have your mask on, you had to be vaccinated, which is what I was surprised about, but you had to have all of that, and I thought it was handled really well. But unfortunately, with how the regulations are being lifted here, I'm kind of worried going forward with conventions for the rest of the year. I mean, I'm still going to go to them because I have one planned in May, Animes, which is in North Carolina, and then possibly a con in New York called Anime NYC or Otakon, which is in DC. I always leave the house with my mask on, even at a convention. It was known before the pandemic that you would get sick at a con because just how many people you were around. So I'm always like extra cautious when I go to conventions now. Like even at Katsu, I was super cautious of always having my mask on, always using hand sanitizer and washing my hands whenever I went anywhere and touched anything. Because I'm going further down south for some cons, I'm like, oh, it's gonna have such looser restrictions for things. But even if there's like a looser policy, I'm always going to be masked up and using hand sanitizer.
Well, all I'm saying is you're probably going to see a lot more Mandalorian cosplays.
I hope to see them. I love seeing these big armor cosplays and all of that. I'm always so impressed with. I was like, wow, I want to do that one day.
I think the furthest I ever got, like I bought the helmet, I think it was last year, and I was like, oh, it's going to be so cool. I'm going to do it up in the colours and everything of the channel and everything. Yeah, I've still to do it. Not even got any other parts of the cosplay, just like the helmet. And I'm like, yeah, I'm
Good,
going to
good enough.
paint it up. And I'm like, yeah, it's like good enough. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's like, the tabletop gamers where they've
Yeah.
got like the minifigures they paint. And I have seen, like, especially for the 40k community, you'll see someone called like Plastic Marines. And it's like, what's a Plastic Marine? And it's basically people that they've just built up the model, but they haven't painted them. So they use that as like their chapter colours. It's like, yeah, Plastic Marine. Oh my god, that's genius.
With Obi-Wan on Disney, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll cosplay Obi-Wan. I've always loved him as a kid, but and I'm like, oh, I gotta get like a fake beard and all that, and it's just like, do I want to put in the effort to look slightly cool and relevant?
Do it for the craft. Come on. It's what the fans want. It's either that or going back to eating more jelly beans. I mean,
What's honestly popular right now at conventions is Genshin Impact. When I went to Katsu, I could not look any direction without seeing a Genshin cosplayer, and I have no hate towards the Genshin community. I loved the game when it first came out, but I fell off hard of it after like 6 months of playing it. But everywhere I went, I was like, "Oh, there is so much here." I was like surrounded by it, and I'm like, "Oh, this isn't going away either," because they've had to sit and not go to conventions while the game was out. So they're just like flooding it now because they've just held on to these cosplays and like, my time is coming. The conventions are back. I have to show my Genshin love.
I'm actually just thinking back to, the fact that we haven't really had like proper conventions for nearly 2-ish years. And it's like the amount of cosplayers who must have like a backlog of these costumes being like, yes, 2021, this was popular, but now I could showcase it off at this con.
Pretty much.
I mean, it is awesome that the cons are opening back up where you are. I mean, obviously, other than the ones you were saying about the lax restrictions, it must be pretty exciting to get back into that kind of flow of planning your cosplay and just enjoying I was going to say the scenery, but then again, I can imagine if it's very packed, you wouldn't see much.
Ah, yes, the sea of con goers. My favorite scene.
My people.
Yeah, I've enjoyed getting back into it because now that I'm into JoJo, I'm like, oh, I want to cosplay him, and I want to cosplay him. And my friend is also a cosplayer that's into JoJo, and we're gonna do Joseph and Caesar at the next convention we're going to.
Wait, which person?
I'm gonna be Caesar. He's gonna be Joseph because I absolutely adore Caesar.
Oh, I was going to do a jokey warning, but I feel as if that would be spoiling something, so I'm not going to. You know what I'm going to say,
Yeah.
JoJo fans. You know what I'm going to say, but yeah.
I'm gonna crush the cosplay. Don't worry.
Yes. And on that note, before I cry tears of nostalgia there, honestly, Jules, it has been fantastic having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I had tons of fun being on here.
Honestly, it's been a blast, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
First podcast, best podcast.
Yes, exactly. That's a legal rule of thumb from what I've been told.
Yes.
From who, I don't know. That's what I always joke. I say I've got like a red panda lawyer, just like sitting in the corner, just filing away, like nodding approvingly. Yes, you can say that on the episode. I'm like, okay, thanks. Thank you. But no, honestly, it's been great having you on. So honestly, thank you. And of course, good luck with the rest of your cosplays and the rest of your awesome content.
Thank you.
Before we finish up, where can these lovely listeners at home find you on social media?
I've always made it easy on every social media. It's just BadGamesJules on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, everything that has a social media. It's BadGamesJules. No underscores, no anything. It's just straight BadGamesJules.
Nice, easy one. Honestly, if you're listening at home and you're like, oh, I want to see more of Bad Games Jules content, go check out Jules. Fantastic streamer, fantastic cosplayer, awesome person. Yeah, go check it out. You can't see it now, but I'm putting a thumbs up as if, yes, seal of approval. Go see, go, hurry. What you doing still listening to this episode? Go, go. As always, if you want to listen to more Satsunami content, you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube under the name Satsunami. If you want to listen to us, then just look out for the red panda under the name Satsunami. And yeah, we will see you there. But until then, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated.